This thing called classical Pilates is just amazing. It takes you through an order, and you start with stretching your body out, getting in touch with your abdominals and pumping the arms, just getting the blood flowing. I think that's a really neat concept. I think too often we think about exercise as moving the muscles, and instead, Pilates is really about moving the spine, and then the muscles work in order to move the spine. Yeah, even an exercise where the legs are moving is really about the control of your core or your powerhouse. Um, and I'll have to think a little bit more about how I use those words because I think we throw them around a little bit, like the words love and hate, but they really have very, very specific meanings and very specific purposes. So, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. I was thinking about the names of these exercises and how something like double leg stretch, you already know all the little steps. We call them choreography. And I think if we were to use the analogy of cooking, the choreography is like your recipe all written out in full. So you have your list of ingredients, you have your the quantities, and then you have the steps, what order you're going to do things in. And I like to think about all the different names for pasta dishes in Italian culture and how, like, you can say pasta alla norma and you know exactly what goes into it. And every person is going to have their own interpretation of this. The same thing if you say pasta alla carbonara. And then you get into these really delicious arguments about uh, like what kind of cheese you use, if you're going to put hot pepper in it, and do you use what kind of pork product do you use, and stuff like that. And oh, do not be caught using cream in this recipe. This is a huge joke in our family. But I want to bring that analogy back to Pilates because these are two of my favorite things and I love comparing them side by side. And they're like one exercise that comes to mind is the roll up. There are so many, do you do it with your feet flexed or do you do it with your feet pointed? Or do you do it the way that Joseph Pilates recommends, where your arms are extended and your feet are pointed, and when the arms come up to 90 degrees, you flex your feet? I've been experimenting with this and having a lot of fun. But it's like learning a new language. You learn your vocabulary first, you learn the steps, and then you can have fun with it and do your own thing. But the base, the foundation of that structure comes from repetition of an order and practicing the language as it is. And here we are at the end of my workout.